Thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel discussion. It's a great honor to be here, and thank you, Amina, for the introduction. So I'm Heesa Al Bader, founding partner of Studio Bound, a multidisciplinary design practice based between Jeddah, Kuwait, and London. Studio Bound operates as both a design studio and a research lab. And it's our research efforts in collaboration with the AA that brings me here today. We have teamed up with the AA in launching the Jeddah Visiting School titled Mecca versus Mecca. The Visiting School is a research platform launched in February 2015 in an aim to study the holy city of Mecca, to gain a deeper understanding of the urban, architectural, and social dynamics of Mecca through a cohesive and ongoing body of research. But before delving into the subject further, I will try to give you a brief introduction of the world of the Architectural Association and the larger context in which the visiting school sits. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about three key things: the AA, the visiting school program, and specifically the Jeddah Visiting School. So for those of you that don't know, the Architectural Association School of Architecture is based in London's Bedford Square. The school was founded in 1847 following an article published in the Builder magazine by Robert Kerr and Charles Gray, aged just 23 and 18, who called upon other students to take their training into their own hands. They were unhappy about the vocational training they were receiving through being trained by private practice, a flawed system that gave uneven results. Basically, in the UK, to become an architect, you had to pay a practicing architect to teach you and educate you. And so the study of architecture was not institutionalized. The AA's beginning were modest, with members and invited guests being asked to present their work at regular meetings, as well as the organization of design sessions and based on mutual critique. In 1862, however, the system was more formalized through this voluntary examination, which was to be the start of the learning and testing educational model that has contributed towards the professionalization of architectural teaching. From the 1930s all the way to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the AA built a reputation for being the hub of radical and experimental ideas and architecture. From the neo-avant-garde projects such as Cedric Price's Fun Palace in the 60s, to Archigram's Walking City in the 70s, or socially through the performance and the theater culture that built up over the years, or to the wild parties, where even elephants were invited to Bedford Square for the AA Carnival. Active engagement and conversations with the public and key figures are key elements that shaped the AA's way of working. People constantly pass through the school. It can be almost described as an avenue where people are coming to the AA to make and do things, and people are going from the AA to make and do things. Prominent architectural figures such as Frank Lloyd Wright, pictured here, and Le Corbusier engaged in lectures, architectural discussions within the walls of the AA. So with a dynamic like this, the school naturally becomes a catalyst for innovative thinking in design, which attracts many people from different backgrounds. Like here, we have Princess Margaret and Cedric Price pictured in one of the AA's parties. The contemporary history of the AA is dominated by the figure of its former chairman, Alvin Boyarsky. Under him, the AA became the international and globally oriented institution it is known as today. Boyarsky's main contribution was the establishment of the unit system, an educational model that is now followed in architectural school worldwide, where instead of the standard curriculum, the AA allowed tutors to construct their own educational structures, with students free to choose the approach that most interested them. Boyarsky encouraged debate and sometimes conflict between units. so that the work was always subjected to a variety of opinions. The AA in the 1970s and 80s also hosted key architectural lectures and debates, becoming an international hub for the development of the architectural discourse. Many of the world's most famous architects, including Ram Koolhaas and Zaha Hadid, emerged from the intense environment that the AA constructed. I think this quote from Boyarsky really summarizes the ideology that the AA still practices today. He states, "I don't think the problem of architectural education is to teach people to be almost pro-professional operators, because that's for them to work out as they go into life. The problem is to actually produce witty people who've got lots of conversations echoing in their ears when they leave. They've heard a lot of conversations, they've seen a lot, they've met people who are on their way up into the world." It is this loop of thinking, making, discussing that what formulates the architectural education. And with time, these conversations and discussions have grown out of the walls of Bedford Square and across the 5 continents in the form of the visiting school. Which brings me to the visiting school program. So what is a visiting school? The AA Visiting School is a worldwide network of short courses, design workshops, and research programs held in the UK and across the 5 continents every year. It's a vital and living extension of the Architectural Association. The AA Visiting School also embodies the cultural and learning ethos that architecture, like other human and cultural and educational endeavors, benefits immensely from the bridging of chasms opened as a result of the accelerating reality of global knowledge, economies, and professional practices. With more than 70 workshops, labs, and nomadic studios, and more than 1,000 students of all ages and background convened around the planet and at Bedford Square to rapidly make, think, discuss, and debate actively to shape the future of architecture. Where cultural externalization is so often about exporting an established and dogmatic model to far-flung places with expected results, the AA Visiting School program inverts that logic. It is learning, exploring, engaging, collaborating, and experimenting with local people, places, and practices in order to reimagine the shape, form, and expectations of architectural education. In the process, constantly producing unimaginable outcomes. In this sense, the AA Visiting School is a contemporary newcomer with no 2 programs alike. And while the scale, material, methods, and issues are unique to each program, what they ultimately share is the AA's unquenchable thirst for the unknown. And in February 2015, saw the birth of AA Jeddah's visiting school, titled Mecca versus Mecca, which was set up by Hussam Daqaq, Basma Kahki, and myself. We initiated the program after graduating from the AA out of genuine curiosity about Mecca. But why Jeddah and why Mecca? We all felt that although we've visited Mecca numerous times, our perceptions of the city were very limited. We did not engage with the city. Instead, we experienced the Holy Mosque or specific moments that were articulate to us. In addition to that, Mecca is currently undergoing its greatest urban transformation. And we wanted to explore these changes and try to understand the dynamics of the holy city. And what was imperative to us, that we wanted to be very objective in our research. So we set up the visiting school, where although we are directors and tutors, we are simultaneously students. The visiting school was set up with a hunger for knowledge and curiosity. What was evident to us, however, was that there was a distinct boundary between the Mecca that the pilgrims experienced and the one that the locals or the residents experienced. And the aim of the visiting school was to trek into the unknown and explore what lay beyond the invisible, yet strongly felt boundaries. Mecca presents an array of challenges, Contextually, it's making sense of its radical development as it faces the challenges of growth. With such drastic changes comes misunderstanding in an attempt to make sense of its new shape and form. Its development has cast a negative undertone, with many of the general public not understanding what's going on and what Mecca is about. So we took it upon ourselves to uncover the story of Mecca and dig deeper into what shapes the holy city and what ultimately constitutes its identity. In order to liberate ourselves and the visiting school participant from any preconceived ideas, we decided to look for ourselves and really try to view the holy city from a different point of view, which was the driving force that we opted for to structure our approach. The strength of our approach into Mecca lies in the difference and diversity of perspective. So the workshop was designed to accommodate multiple and many times opposing points of view. With partnerships and collaboration with contractor developer, the Saudi Bin Laden Group, to discussions with historians such as Dr. Salim Bukhari, and conversations with artists such as Ahmed Matar, as well as architects, planners, and governing authorities in Mecca, what we tried to do is develop a well-rounded picture of the holy city. And as orchestrators of the program, we left it to the participant to formulate their own opinions based on all the different ideas and relationships of the city they have been exposed to. An objective outcome of the holy city. Objective in its formulation, but subjective in its content. Part of our design methodology and process in the Jeddah Visiting School is shaped by the larger framework of the AA, which has a strong emphasis on learning through doing and exploring. And as such, we actively engaged with the holy city, immersing ourselves in the city. We went out of the classroom and into Mecca. We walked its streets and explored areas beyond the Haram, outside of the pilgrims' territory, and engaged in conversations with the locals, some of which were welcoming and others a lot more reserved. All of these tours and guides were documented in an archive book. And with each trip, the students were divided into categories where they were looking for specific things to analyze and archive. They became expert into whatever it is they were doing. And it's through the rigor and repetition that the books could be read. Al-Haram forms the core zone of our research and focuses the area of development surrounding the Holy Mosque. The Mecca we colloquially refer to as the city domain. As a nucleus for all of Mecca's development, we centered our efforts in and around the mosque, using the Kaaba as the central reference point, and concentrically expanding our outlook from it. We ventured to study the Haram through the scopes of its different users, constantly immersing ourselves and detaching ourselves from the mosque. We sought to understand its scale by engaging with the pilgrims, whilst also taking panoramic views from the clock tower, a constant reshuffle in scale and perspective that allow us to reevaluate and appreciate the only area of Mecca that we thought we had known. If Al-Haram represented the Mecca that we all know, then Al-Hujun and Al-Sharashif and Al-Masfala represent the other sides of Mecca. We marked and documented our journeys into the landscapes of Mecca, the landscapes that we only came to discover as part of our research, and that depict an image of the holy city that is wholly contradictory to the rapid pace of development witnessed in the areas surrounding Al-Haram. Most interestingly, however, is the close proximity which these areas have to the Holy Mosque. You only have to walk a few meters across to find yourself in a completely different situation. And in many cases, these were like very close proximity. We climbed Mecca's hills in search of the unknown. We looked back into our roots from further perspective, constantly shifting in scale from the micro to the macro. With Al-Haram in contrast, so with these two pictures of Mecca, they weave the tale of two cities, captured in a vicious vacuum of trying to catch up with one another, and an underscoring struggle of Mecca becoming Mecca. I would like to just try to show you a video which I hope works, of our exploration in Mecca. So weird. Sorry, there's like a serious technical issue, but it's not supposed to look like this. I'm not going to go through it again. So I'd like to end with this. Constantly different places where architecture can be taught and learned. It's not just in the classrooms, but it's all out into the world. Thank you.